Tonight we discuss the life of one of the greatest opera singers of all time, Maria Callas. La Divina, the voice of the century, the diva of the opera. But behind that woman and behind all that talent, there was a woman that was broken and was never allowed to be a girl. Tonight we sit with her story, and we're not just sitting with the diva or the icon, we're sitting with the real Maria. It is December the 2nd of 1923. In Manhattan, New York, a little girl is born. Her real name is Maria Anna Sophia Cecilia Kalogeropoulou. She was a daughter of Greek parents who had just moved from Greece to New York, but it was a very broken family. Her mother was a very narcissistic woman who was very self-absorbed, and her father, even though he was a very quiet and peaceful man, unfortunately, he wasn't strong enough to put a stop on the excessive rudeness of her mother. By the time Maria was born, her parents had lost a baby boy before that, and they arrived to New York with her mother being pregnant of her. Unfortunately, when Maria was born, her mother was expecting that baby to be some sort of replacement of that son that they had just lost. It is said that when her mother found out that Maria was a girl, it took her 4 days to see the baby. And this was the beginning of a very broken relationship with her mother. Throughout her entire childhood, Maria was often compared with her older sister, Jackie. The reason of this comparison was because her mother really preferred Jackie over Maria. And she created a lot of problems with her self-esteem, calling her fat, calling her ugly, and also saying that she was not smart and that she was dumb. It is very cruel to see that a mother will treat a child in this way. I understand that her mother was going through a lot as far as losing a baby just before having her, but whatever it is that was going through her head does not justify the treatment that she gave to Maria her entire life. Another important detail that we need to mention about this relationship is that her mother was actually a frustrated opera singer. She had always wanted to be a singer and to be in the opera. However, that didn't happen and she was never successful in her career. At first, she tried to put those dreams and expectations that she had in her older sister, Jackie. However, Jackie was not very talented at all as far as music or singing, and later on she will find out that Maria actually had the talent that she wanted her kids to have so that she could live her own frustrated dream through her kids. You will think that her mother finding out that Maria had such a wonderful gift will improve the relationship between them, but it actually didn't. You see, Maria was exploited financially from a very young age. Her mother pretty much had her singing and working since she was 5 years old. And this is really sad because not only she was comparing her and just destroying her self-esteem from a very young age, but she also took away her childhood and the time where kids are supposed to be kids. Later on in her life as an adult, Maria will say, I open quote, "I'll never forgive her for taking my childhood away. During all the years I should have been playing and growing up, I was singing or making money. Everything I did for them was mostly good, and everything they did to me was mostly bad." She will also say that there should be some sort of law that protected children at that time from being exploited and just financially abused from a very young age. In 1957, she said that there should be a law against forcing children to perform at any early age. Children should have a wonderful childhood and they should not be given too much responsibility. And you will think that this is horrible enough for a mother-daughter relationship, but what continues going on it's so much worse. In 1937, when Maria was only 13 years old, her mother decides to move back to Greece with Maria and her older sister, without the father. See, according to most biographies that I was able to access to, it is said that at the time, her father or her entire family was having a lot of financial problems sustaining the family. And for that same reason, Maria was very exploded from a very young age. And her mother did not ever wanted to be in the United States in the first place. It is said that the idea to move to the United States was an idea of the father, and after they were in the United States, her mother felt like it was something that didn't make any sense because she came from a family that was very privileged in Greece, and then they immigrated to the United States for a better life, but being in the United States was actually worse because they were not even able to afford rent or a place to live. Another thing that is important to add to the story is that some versions say that the reason why her mother wanted to move with them back to Greece was also because multiple issues and infidelities that were going on in that marriage. Her father, even though he was a very peaceful man, he was very attracted to multiple women. And it is said that he was very unfaithful throughout the entire marriage, and this is another thing that Maria saw growing up. Once they were back in Greece, this will be the beginning of an icon. Maria will get herself enrolled in the Greek National Conservatory, and she will have a first teacher called Maria Trivella. It is said that every single teacher that she had will reference her as a very disciplined kid. They will say that nobody else in the class had the discipline and the commitment that she had to music. Even though originally she wasn't considered the most talented or the most prodigious kid on her class, later on her discipline and her consistency is what actually end up paying off. But in 1939, Maria will meet who was, in my opinion, the closest figure that she had to the mother that she needed. She will meet her forever mentor, Elvira de Hidalgo. Elvira de Hidalgo was a Spanish soprano singer who had been very successful back in her time, let's say. However, right now she was fully dedicated to teaching. And for some reason, these teachers saw something in Maria that nobody else did. She pretty much took her and embraced her and guided her not only as far as music, but as far as life as well. She taught her the true bel canto, the precision, and the emotion that lives inside the note. Later on in her life, Maria will refer very highly about her teacher, and she will say, I quote, "It is to this illustrious Spanish artist with a moved, devoted, and grateful heart that I owe my preparation and my artistic formation as an actress and musician." And the thing is that Hidalgo not only taught her how to sing, but she also taught her how to express emotions to the public and how to portray everything that was necessary to bring a musical piece to life and to make actual art on stage. But unfortunately, we need to remember the historical period where this history is developing on. And at that time, Greece was occupied by both the Nazis of Germany and the fascists of Italy. And even throughout all of the horrors and terrible things that were happening around her, Maria was able to continue singing for survival, but she continued her art throughout that time. Still, these days were very tough for Maria and for pretty much the entire world. The amount of horrors and just cruel things that were happening were out of this world. But another thing that I found interesting about her biography is that some versions say that during this time to survive, her mother were sexually sell her to the German soldiers so that they could survive. So not only, allegedly, she was exploiting her for her money of singing, but also she will even go to the extent of selling physically her own daughter. Again, this is something that is not confirmed 100%, but some historians argue that Maria actually went through this. And given the character that her mother had throughout the entire history so far, I wouldn't be surprised, unfortunately. After the Nazi occupation, the communists took over. And when the communists took over, what was happening in the country is that they were going after every single person that had any ties to the Germans. And obviously, Maria Callas was not really somebody that was interested in fascism or Nazism or nothing like that. But in order to survive, she sang and she attended a lot of events where there were also, Nazi generals. So for the communists at the time, they considered her a traitor, and they actually were able to execute and kill and, prison a bunch of people, including artists, that were involved with the Nazis in the past. So at that moment, Maria was pretty much fearing for her life at this point, because who knows, like anybody could completely say that Maria was a Nazi, and that will be a reason enough for her to be executed. So she writes a letter to her father for him to send her money so that she can go back to the United States. And thankfully, her father helps her and she moves back to New York. After being in New York, she meets her first husband, who was almost 30 years older than her, Giovanni Battista. This relationship was very interesting because according to a lot of biographies, it is said that it was a very transactional relationship, that there wasn't real love in there, and that it was mostly something that she found, let's say, to secure or to have some sort of stability and financial security. And after them being in a relationship or a marriage together, it is said that Maria only had to worry about singing and focusing on her career. But later on, this marriage will have a lot of trouble because he becomes her manager, but at the same time that he becomes her manager, he also started controlling her financially because he was the one that was having full control of the money that she was making with her own work. So this whole toxic financial dynamic started breaking their relationship apart. During this period of time, she will consolidate herself as a more serious opera singer. And even though her talent was outside of this world and her voice was just magical, the press was very cruel about her appearance. I saw that one reporter, or I think it was a critic of opera, he said something like, it was impossible to know the difference between the legs of an elephant and the legs of Callas during the performance or something like that. And I mean, that was just one of the many comments that they will say to her. It is even said that she even rejected some opera roles because of how worried she was about the comments that they will make about her body if she were going to perform those roles. So the press right now, as a grown woman, bullying her about her weight, and her mother, who had been destroying her self-esteem since she was a baby, I feel like all those comments got mixed together, and that's when she decided to make a change. As a result of she making this change, she ended up losing around 36 to 40 kilograms, which is around 80 something pounds in the period of a year, which is a lot. There's a lot of speculation about how did she lose that weight so fast. Some people were saying that she developed some sort of eating disorder, that she had anorexia, that she had bulimia. But the most common version of how she lost the weight is that she was eating raw meat and that she ended up developing some sort of tapeworm in her stomach. And some people say that she did that on purpose, that she took some pill that will develop that inside her. And some other people were saying that she was eating like raw eggs and raw meat on purpose so that she could develop that too. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think that she did it on purpose, or do you think that this is something that just ended up happening as an accident of a diet that, you know, she started doing and she didn't know the consequences? Long story short, after losing all that weight, her career completely blew to the sky. She was in her total prime. She was feeling more confident. Also, she went and seek for help to improve her style. And she was not only a diva as far as singing, but she was also a total fashion icon after that. A lot of versions mention that she had a big respect and admiration for Audrey Hepburn, and that she was like the women that she looked up to and compare herself to in a toxic way sometimes. But you can definitely see, if you see a picture of Maria Callas and Audrey, you can see that like there's some sort of inspiration, or like, you know, kind of trying to look like her, be like her a little bit. Around the same time that she lost the weight, she also had lost the biggest weight that she was carrying her entire life, which was her toxic, narcissistic mother. Around that time, her mother, it is said, that was asking her for money, that she wanted some sort of allowance per month or something like that. And also, after losing the weight, she also lost the weight that she had been carrying the most, which was the weight of tolerating her narcissistic mother. And it is said that her relationship ended because her mother was asking her for money, and she basically responded that there was no reason of her sending her money because she had been helping her entire life, and that she was working very hard to earn her own money. And that, I'm paraphrasing, but in very simple words, Maria said something like, if she cannot sustain herself and work, she might as well throw herself out of a window or something like that. And I think that those are very radical words to say. But given the fact that that woman raised her, that's kind of like the results of her own doing. You know what I mean? And also, Maria had been supporting her and helping her financially way before she was supposed to anyway. So on one side, I can see a little bit of extremism in this statement, but on the other side, I totally agree. And now we enter the most tragic and dramatic part of her story, her relationship with Aristotle Onassis. They first met at a party that was organized by the journalist, very successful journalist, Elsa Maxwell. She was like the top of the top in journalism back in the day. She will be covering Marilyn Monroe, Frank Sinatra, you know, the biggest of the biggest, right? And at first, they say that they didn't have a good relationship, but later on, her and Maxwell will become very close friends. So Maxwell invites Maria Callas into this party, and in this party, she will meet Onassis. They also say that when they meet for the first time, he invited her and her husband to one of his yachts or cruise, but they say no, and, you know, nothing pretty much happened. 2 years later, they actually go on a cruise with him, or his yacht, his boat, whatever, and that was the before and after in the life of Maria Callas. So listen to the tea. They go in this trip, you know, with him and a bunch of other celebrities, because one thing about Onassis is that he was, you know, in relations with every single star at the time. So in those boats or cruises, you will see Elizabeth Taylor, Marilyn Monroe, you know, just everybody, right? So she goes in this yacht with Onassis and her husband. And when she leaves the yacht, she is asking her husband for a divorce. So according to most of the versions, in this trip, they slept together for the first time. And based on most of the documentaries that I've seen, Aristotle Onassis wasn't, very handsome. I mean, you can see in the pictures, like, his looks wasn't his thing. But number one, he was one of the most powerful, richest men alive at the time. And number two, it is said that he was very good at, making women happy, So they say that the first time that they were together, it was so passionate and so good that she came into the boat happily married, and she left the boat with her husband, asking her for a divorce the same night that she slept with somebody else. She told her husband, this marriage is over. Like, this is it. We're done. So this is very funny because it's like, what happened that night that woman left her husband in that exact moment, number one. And number two, this will show how obsessed and how radical this woman was about Onassis. Like, later on, the entire relationship, she will be making these life-changing decisions around him. It was a complete obsession and passionate romance that will later on destroy her, unfortunately. According to a lot of her biographers, her relationship with Onassis was that love that she never got to experience before. They say that this was the first time that she was actually experiencing romance, because her first marriage was pretty boring. It's described, it was a marriage that it was mostly like a formality, like a security, a stability type of marriage. But this marriage was passion, fireworks, like it was everything. I mean, not this marriage, but this relationship, my bad. But from the beginning, this romance had a lot of drama. First of all, he was married, Aristotle was married, and Maria Callas was married too. So fast forward in their relationship, Aristotle actually gets a divorce from his wife, but Maria does not get a divorce. Most people say that this was a way of her first husband of taking revenge against her for leaving him and cheating on him. Remember, this was a total scandal at the time because everybody was covering the fact that it was pretty obvious, like they were in this yacht, and the same day that they were in the yacht, she said, this marriage is over. And later on, Maria Callas and Onassis will be seen together on and off all the time. So it was very obvious that this was happening. And to be honest, analyzing the story, if her first husband would have given her the divorce, and if she would have married Aristotle Onassis right then and there in the 60s, this story would have been a lot different, but that is not what happened. They never end up getting married, and this is the beginning of the tragedy. One of the first controversies of this relationship is that in one instance, Maria disappeared from the entire world in one of these boats during 7 months. A lot of biographers say that the reason why she was in there is because she was pregnant, and she has the baby in there, and unfortunately the baby dies. And this is something that is so sad because she, more than anything, she wanted to be a mother and to have a family and just, to have that life. But she was never able to have that. And she was thinking that with Aristotle, she was finally going to have that family of her dreams, but he will be very cruel with her, and he will tell her things that if you have a child, you will stop having me. If you get pregnant, that's the day I'm gonna leave you, and all these other things. So she has this baby in secret, and unfortunately the baby dies. And it is even said that the name that she had for this baby was Homero, or Homer in English. And later in time, after they found her dead in her apartment and they were checking all her things and stuff, they found a picture of a baby boy. And after that, everybody confirmed that that was pretty much the boy, the baby that people were saying that she had on that boat. This relationship was very, very toxic. You guys know that for Maria Callas, her voice was like everything. Like, her singing was her only love. Like, her two loves were music and Aristotle. And when they were together, he did not allow her to sing. Like, he will literally force this woman that was the greatest opera singer of the century to not sing. He hated it. And she will be forbidden to sing in his boats. And this relationship was very toxic because it had a lot of lows like that, but it also had a lot of highs. He purchased an island at the time that later on we will see Jackie Kennedy on. And in this island, most people say that he purchased it for her originally so that they will be able to escape and be together and have time for each other. He also bought her an apartment in, I think it was France. And most of the things that he had for her were material. And I think for somebody that, like her, that came from such a humble background, probably all of those things just, got her. And also, what we mentioned previously, that he was very gifted at making women happy, where. Maybe there was a mix of the things that she had going on, and that's why he ended up having so much power over her. Then the relationship with these two will get even more dramatic because he also was obsessed with Jackie Kennedy. And they meet for the first time when he takes Jackie on a cruise trip. And there's a lot of speculations about this cruise trip because some people say that her and Kennedy were about to get divorced, that marriage was not working, and that he actually was, intimate with her at the time that they were on that cruise. And Maria Callas had also said herself that when she found out that Jackie Kennedy was at that cruise, I think it was called the Christina, if I'm not mistaken, she knew right then and then that it was pretty much over, that this was the beginning of the end. And Aristotle and Jackie will start on a relationship. And even when they were already, going on and off together or dating or talking or whatever, Maria Callas gets pregnant again with another baby. And this time, this happened in 1666. He forced her to abort the baby. Honestly, I don't even know what to say at this point. This relationship is absolutely horrible. It's a nightmare. And things will get even worse when in 1968, he will officially get married to Jackie Kennedy, which was Jackie Onassis. Maria found out about this in her house. She was just watching TV, and out of nowhere, she sees on the news that the love of her life and this random woman just got married. Maria was absolutely devastated. She went on complete depression at the time. And keep into account that ever since she started a relationship with Aristotle Onassis, she was no longer singing as she used to. Remember, she was not allowed to sing in her cruise or his island, which is where she was spending most of the time. And singing, especially opera singing, it's a skill, and it's a skill that requires a lot of work and consistency, and you cannot just stop doing it or stop working on it. You have to be consistent, and you have to continue protecting your instrument. And she was not taking care of her instrument for so long that when she tried to go back to the singing, it wasn't the same. She had pretty much lost her voice and her, her skill, her talent. And this is something that mixed with the sadness that she was going through with the 2 babies that she lost and all the hell that this man put her through. This was pretty much the end of her. This is also sad, but wait a minute. You will think that after he married Jackie Kennedy, this whole thing will be over. Well, you guessed wrong. It's not over, because he decides to go to Paris right after the honeymoon with Jackie to visit Callas. Come on. Like, not only he broke this woman's hearts, but now he's breaking the other women's heart. It's just a mess. So he continues to have her as her mistress the entire time. And later on, her marriage with Jackie just collapses because he started blaming her for the death of his son, Alexander. And because there was a lot of conspiracy theories saying that Jackie Kennedy is cursed and it's her fault that her husband died and then Robert Kennedy died and da-da-da. Well, he was starting to believe that himself, and he wanted to get a divorce from Jackie. But unfortunately, in that time, he also got sick, and eventually, in 1973, he will die. And when he died, Jackie did not go to visit him because she was also upset at the fact that he filtered some paparazzis in the island and they took naked pictures of her. That was a whole drama. But her marriage was over and they were not in good terms. So he and Jackie were not seeing each other, but she also prohibited the staff from allowing Maria Callas to go visit him as he was in the hospital. Obviously, they did not listen to her, and Maria Callas was able to visit him and just, say goodbye to him when he was about to die. The death of this man was also the death of Callas herself. After he died, it pretty much was over because she went on full depression. She was also not able to recover her voice anymore. Her soul and her life were pretty much over because her first love, which was singing, was gone. And then her second love, which was Aristotle, was also gone. So in 1977, she is found dead in her apartment, and it was a very sad way to go. They say that she started developing psychosis, that sometimes she was, her mind was clear and sometimes it wasn't at all. So it was a very, very sad thing. But I think her life has so many lessons. This is a woman that was able to overcome a narcissistic mother, a traumatizing childhood, the Nazis, the communists, and then overcome all the difficulties of being a big performer. And, she was able to overcome the industry as well. So it is very interesting how a lot of people that are so smart, so strong, so powerful, when it comes to love, it's like they're kryptonite. Like that's it. Like they can overcome war, hunger, sadness, absolutely everything. But when it comes to love, it completely disarms them and it's pretty much over for them. So I think from her story, I personally take her resilience for sure, her strength as well, because she wasn't called a diva for no reason. It is said that she was very perfectionist, and whenever she had to speak up, she will 100% speak up. In one occasion, she has an interview where somebody's asking her, how come an opera singer like you charges or makes more money than the president? And she said something like, well, let him sing, or may he sing instead, or something like that. So she was a total, diva. And there's a lot of things that we can learn about her. But I think another thing that we can keep in mind is the importance of loving others. Yes, is important. And as long as we are alive, we have to love as much as we can and as hard as we can. But that love has to also go to ourselves as well. It is not fair to just love somebody else and forget about loving yourself too. So I think a lesson, keep a balance right there and stay away from toxic people, I will say, pretty much. So that's it for the story of today. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. And please let me know in the comments, what do you think? Did I miss anything? Any other details that you know about this story? Please let me know. I absolutely love her story. Remember to like and subscribe, and see you on the next video. Bye-bye.